Well, good morning, and my name is Mike Tabor. We're going to talk about vendor catalogs today for Keystroke Live. I'm going to go ahead and mute the crowd, and then we'll go ahead and unmute you later. If you need to ask a question, you can use the chat bar down at the bottom. Again, today it's Keystroke Live. We're going to go over vendor catalogs. And as always, we're doing Keystroke Lives on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. And today we're going to talk about vendor catalogs. Vendor catalogs are kind of a way to manage hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of different parts with your Keystroke program without actually importing every single part that's possible into the program. A lot of times you work with big distributors that have hundreds and thousands of different items, but you may only sell or stock a small handful of those. I kind of liken this for people that have been around with Keystroke for a long time. We used to have a Bicolog on CD or on disc, BOD, and that was a way that you could open up a CD and pick a bunch of different, this is bicycle parts, and pick up a bunch of items and then click a button and have it import into the Keystroke program, so then you can start purchasing and selling those same items. The idea is the same with vendor catalogs. We can create these different catalogs for each vendor, and usually we get these files from the actual vendor in a CSV or tab delimited format, and you would import them in as vendor catalogs, and we'll go through those steps in a little bit. We'll find out here in a little bit. It's easy to copy those records from the vendor catalogs right into Keystroke and have it import in automatically into the Keystroke program. The file format for these unique files are the same as the Keystroke data files, so you need to get them into that format, and usually you use the importer to do so. Or you could actually copy another customer's or a client's inventory files with their permission into your data and then massage that into, let's say, a vendor catalog for different vendors. Down here we talk about the files that they're stored in the catalogs subfolder. That's underneath the Keystroke program and underneath your data folder, just like toolbars and so forth, and lists and photos. There's catalogs. They do have a unique name. It's the number.dat, and the number is the actual vendor number. We mentioned we can use the importer. We'll do little examples in Keystroke here shortly about this. And most importantly, this was added recently as a Keystroke Advanced only feature. You cannot get this with Keystroke POS. You cannot get this with Express POS. So this is an Advanced POS only feature. I'm going to jump to the next slide, but then we'll bounce back into Keystroke and come back to these slides for some different bullet points. We'll jump into Keystroke and kind of take a look at what I've already done and how I created some of these files. I'm going to pause the screen here while I open up some information. Here's a sample file that might be supplied either from a Keystroke program. This was actually exported out of Keystroke. And this is exported out in a tab delimited format. You could do this in a CSV format also. This would be an example file you might get from your supplier. They might send you information that might have a product code, something like this number over here, or a manufacturer's code. It'll have a description. It'll have other information like pricing and cost. Here I believe is some price and some costs. And so you receive a file like this, and then you need to get it into the Keystroke program as a vendor catalog. So this file is called export.txt. I'm going to go into Keystroke right now, and we're going to take this file and import it into Keystroke. So we'll get started. I'm going to go right to the extensions menu here and then select the data importer. And I'm going to go to the setup file first, the setup menu. And notice that vendor catalog is actually at the bottom of the screen. This is an addition with Advanced POS. When I select this, it kind of comes up to a regular import screen. I'm going to use the setup file that is actually our blank template called KS Import, but you could create one for every different vendor. For instance, I can hit enter on setup, and this is more along the lines of the importer, but I'm going to hit insert here and call this one, just for the sake of this, we'll call it vendor Ven8. Just a setup file so that I can find later in case the file formats you get from different vendors are in different formats. I know the file name is called export. Excuse me. And now I can go through and pick which fields I want to import and which fields I don't want to import. For the sake of this example, I'm going to use the trick key here, the Shift F8, that's going to populate all of these fields with how they come out of Keystroke. Kind of cheating in that I already know that the file format of export.txt comes out in this format with these actual fields in this order. I'm going to check the Add New Items down at the bottom. You could use this to merge new information into your vendor catalog. So let's say every month from vendor number 8 you get a new file. You could use the merge by and say I want to merge it by product code. And I'm going to add new items if they're not there. I'm going to leave this one blank at the bottom where I can say I do want to update the existing items. So this is the setup in the importer for vendor catalogs. I'll hit F10 to save this. And now we'll go under import, and again you'll see down at the bottom we have this section called vendor catalog. So we'll go ahead and click on it. In this case I'm going to replace the file. Replace and merge would be the same in this case because this is vendor 8 and I do not have a vendor 8 file. But I'm going to select replace in this case. It asks me for the vendor number, and I can click on existing to see which vendors I've already set up. I've already set up Discount Computer Brokers number 7, but this is a different file from a different vendor, so I'm going to go ahead and just hit escape there. This one's going to be vendor number 8. And when I hit OK, it tells me that this file does not exist. Would you like to create it? And I'll say yes. And then because I use the replace function, it's kind of rhetorical. It's asking me to delete the file and recreate it again. Then I click on OK, and it says import this file export.txt into number 8.dat. Normally, notice it's a very simple number. And the import is complete. So now I have a file called 8.dat that has 141 records in it. So I'll go ahead and say OK. So let's go to Database Manager and just start looking under Inventory. For instance, I'm going to bring up this list here. I'm going to bounce back to our bullet points, make sure I haven't missed any steps here. Let's go back to this quickly. We're going to talk about the database and the vendor catalog choice that's at the top of the database menu. We're going to talk about the catalog button that's on the list where we can go ahead and pull up different catalogs. Then we're going to jump into Purchase Manager and see how Keystroke will lock on to the vendor, and so when you pull up the vendor list, it has a whole different list. So let's jump back to Keystroke. I'm going to hit escape off this list right now, and let's go to Database. And notice now at the bottom of the screen under Database, the Database menu, we have Vendor Catalog. If I click this, it's going to ask me to type in a vendor number if I know it, or I can click on Existing, and here I can see the two different vendors, Discount Computer Brokers and Mega Discount Warehouse. I can use the Tab or F9 key to sort this. If you had a big long list, you might want it alphabetically, but you might want it by number, so I just hit F9 to resort it. The Tab key does the same, so if I had 400 vendor lists, I might want to sort it by number and then just type in like the number 8, and I end up there, or 800, and so forth. I'm going to pick this number 8 that I just selected. And now I'm actually on a set of inventory that's not really my Keystroke inventory. Think of one of the benefits as if you had millions of part numbers or a 2 gigabyte inventory file, how difficult that would be to read over the network and read in all these millions of parts when you'd only really be selling maybe tens of thousands of them, not millions of them, different types of items. And as you know, catalogs, there's old stuff, there's new stuff, but the catalogs contain all the stuff. So we don't really want to sell that all the time. So this tells me right away that I'm on inventory main screen, vendor catalog number 8, and I'm looking at this information. If I hit the edit button to bring up the list, it shows me this is the catalog for vendor number 8. And I can pick an item if I want and say this item here, let's just hit F3 on it. It's got an average cost and some pricing here for 35 cents, whatever this is. And if I go ahead and highlight this, I can click on copy item. When I say copy item, it goes ahead and adds a new stock number from this data into my existing data set, and it makes it stock number 130. I can, of course, go down and pick different items, and just as I find some I want, maybe these are a lot of $0 items, but maybe I'll pick another one of these. Click on copy the item. Now it's stock number 131. So this is one way to manage your databases, and you can actually, when I'm pulling this up, this is the vendor 8 catalog. I'm on stock number 2544, which just happens to be a stock number in a completely different database. But I can do things like search and replace. I can go and search and replace for items. I can hide items. I can delete items. I can manage this set of data in Keystroke as I would my regular inventory. And this is just another way to kind of use more inventory data than you would actually have in one file. Let's go ahead and talk about the lists. Let's go back to database and select inventory. Here's F3. If I hit F3, this is my inventory list. It just says inventory at the top. And right now it says the catalog is number 8. If I click on this, that's what it's going to select. And now I'm in the vendor number 8. I can reset this if I wanted to by leaving Database Manager, or I can actually use the F12 query function to reset it to not show number 8 if I need to. Or I can just go back to Database. Let me hit Escape here. Go to Vendor Catalog. Say I want to select number 7. Here's my number 7 inventory. Go back to Database Inventory and bring up a list. And now I've focused in on two things. My inventory, this is our tutor data, and my catalog for number 7's vendors. If I click on that, I can find different items, copy it in, and now it copies it in as 132. So I'm grabbing 2 items from one vendor, vendor number 8, and 1 item from vendor number 7, and throwing it into my inventory. Let's go ahead and leave here, and I'm going to go jump back to our bullets and see what let's go back to Purchase Manager, and we'll notice how Purchase Manager will lock onto the certain vendor. We'll talk a little bit about security levels to make sure we know who can and can't use these features. And then we can, I think we've already showed how we can sort the vendor name, but I'll show it to you again here. Let's go back to Purchase Manager. This is really where the power comes into play. Normally, you won't really do anything but import in that vendor catalog and then use it when you need to. You probably won't be maintaining it in Database Manager like I just demonstrated. You might just say, hey, it's a big file. I don't mind. It's a big file sitting out there. I just need a few items from it from time to time. And that's what Purchase Manager really locks into this. So I'm in Purchase Manager now, and let's say I'm going to work with vendor number 7. And I'm going to buy some parts. Here's my regular list of parts that I would buy. This is my tutor data. I go ahead and order some of these, and then I order something else from this vendor. And then I look through my inventory and I say, you know, I can't find that part. It's not these parts here. It must be in their catalog somewhere, so let me go look there. So I click on catalog number 7, and then I go find something in the Z's or in the palms. So we find some items here, and this is the item I'm looking for, and I go ahead and say that's the one I want. I can F3 on it to double check some information, and say, yes, that's the one I want. I can copy the item. It's now stock number 133. If I'm done, I just hit escape, and now I can just sort this and go to the end and find what I just imported in. Now it's part of my inventory, and now I can start purchasing it and put in some prices that I would be getting it for. And now we have kind of a list of some of the existing items plus some new items I just pulled from the vendor catalog. And as I let's say eventually receive these items, it's going to cut to the chase here. I'll go ahead and make this a purchase invoice. Pull that purchase invoice back up. The items are there. If I hit F3 on this item, it was that newly added item. You can see some information on it here. You can see I bought it for 25 cents. I guess I didn't have my update parameter on because I'm selling it for less than what I bought it for. We can look at the vendor list now. The vendor number 7 is in there. It shows the last date I purchased, what I purchased it for. I could put in a vendor part number if I had it. If I imported it in, it would be there for me, and so forth. Then I can go to some of these other screens here, and it shows me I purchased this. This is all now part of my regular inventory database. So I've been able to take many catalogs that are in digital format and put them into Keystroke. In my case, I have 2 different files, and that's kind of the gist of it. I'm going to bounce over here to show you the data file structure, and I am be right with you here. All right, let me show you this screen. This is my database structure. I just happen to be running from a KS7 program directory with a live subfolder, just so I don't wipe out my tutor data over and over. And here we have a catalogs folder. And if I go into here, I can take a look, and I've got 7.dat and 8.dat. These are the actual files that contain all that inventory information. These back files are created when I use the importer. It always backs up the existing one, so in case you make a big mistake without a backup, you can maybe have one chance to go get it. If you run the importer twice, you'll wipe that file out. And so now if I know vendor 7 is called Mega Distribution, and I know that other Keystroke users might use parts from Mega Distribution, I could actually take this file, copy it out to a catalogs folder in another data set, possibly rename it. Maybe their vendor number 7 is somebody else's vendor number 100, and you would then have a catalog for those parts at a different vendor site. Assuming that you're working with these vendors and they're happy to give you the data, I don't see there's any problem with sharing that data as you need with your different customers. Well, great. I'm going to go ahead and go back to our slideshow presentation here. We kind of talked about Purchase Manager, how it locks onto the vendor screen. If you don't have a vendor, I guess I should have shown you this. Why don't I do that while I'm here? Let me get this back up in front of you. So if I come in with vendor number 0 and I say OK, and then I want to pull up a list of inventory, now my catalogs has a ... up top here, and it tells me I get to select one of them. It's not locked on to number 7, for instance, so I can click on that and I can go ahead and use my existing if I want to. I can hit F9 and change it by number. And right now I've locked into vendor number 8. And so now when I pull up a list, as long as there's no vendor selected, it's not locked in at this time. So that's kind of the big gist of vendor catalogs. And I'm going to go ahead and unmute people and see if there's any questions right now. And we'll just go ahead and show the slide about the different ideas, and I might actually go back a slide here to kind of show you, kind of in summary, we can manage really millions of different part numbers with different file names. It's very easy to copy those into the Keystroke program by just clicking one button. It's the file format's the same as the inventory, so we have to kind of use the importer to get these items in. All right, does anyone have any questions on vendor catalogs today? Well, great. Well, remember, it's an advanced-only feature, so people that do want to use it need advanced. And thank you for the meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and close down the webinar. If you don't have any questions, just remember next week we have Michael Gebb. It's the first Wednesday of the month, and so Michael Gebb will be presenting some information next Wednesday. Thank you very much. Have a good day.